Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Bible study. Genesis chapter 35 is the topic of the day, and you can get the free handout with all this information on our website. There's a link down in the description below. When did the events of chapter 35 take place? Well, there isn't enough information in the text to date these events with specificity, but most of the events in 35 took place after Jacob returned to Canaan from the land of Haran or Padan Aram. That would be approximately between the years 1745 BC and 1725 BC. So a span of about 20 years is probably where this fits. Now, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the death of Isaac, Abraham's son, in this chapter, and he died in approximately 1716 BC. 1716 BC. Now moving on to our main characters, we have Jacob, who God had recently renamed Israel as a blessing to him. He was the twin brother of Esau, and he had recently moved, as we just mentioned, from Haran to Canaan at God's instruction. We then have Rachel. Rachel was the wife who Jacob had served Laban for 14 years. He was the wife that he loved the most. And Rachel was the mother of Benjamin and Joseph. And then we have a character that we've been talking about for quite a while, that is Isaac. Isaac was the son of Abraham and the father of Jacob. Now, what about the where? Let's consult our map to figure out where these events took place. Jacob traveled to Bethel, and he built an altar there. That was where the Lord had appeared to him 20 plus years earlier. Remember when he had seen that vision from heaven and the ladder and the angels going up and down the ladder? Sadly, Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel, is going to pass away in this chapter, and that's going to happen on the way to Ephrath or Bethlehem. And then Isaac is also going to pass away in this chapter. He lived in Mamre, which was known as Kiriath Arba or also Hebron. And so now for our outline. Chapter 35, verses 1 through 5, our first section, Jacob returns to Bethel. So God told Jacob to go to Bethel, where he had previously seen that vision, and build an altar there. Jacob told his household to get rid of all of their foreign gods, all of their idols. So they gave their idols and their earrings to Jacob, and he buried them under a tree near Shechem. And the text says that God caused a great terror to fall on the people of the land so that they wouldn't pursue Jacob's family. Because remember, in chapter 34, Levi and Simeon had killed Shechem and Hamor and all of the men of their city. And Jacob was worried that the people of the land were going to come after him. So God caused this great terror to fall on the people so that that wouldn't happen and they wouldn't avenge Shechem and Hamor. Jacob arrived in Bethel, and he built an altar there to honor the Lord who had watched over him and cared for him when he had to flee from his brother Esau. God appeared to Jacob there, and he told him that his name was going to be changed from Jacob to Israel. God told Jacob that he was going to make him into a great nation, and that is what he would do. Eventually, Jacob's descendants would become known as the Israelites, who we'll read about basically throughout the rest of the Old Testament and even into the New Testament. God also promised that he was going to give the Israelites the land of Canaan. He reaffirmed the same promise that he made to Abraham and Isaac previously. And so Jacob set up a pillar of stone there where the Lord had appeared to him, and he called the name of the place Bethel. So the next section is a sad one. It's verses 16 through 21, the death of Rachel. Rachel was pregnant, and she went into labor while Jacob's household was on the way to Ephrath or to Bethlehem. The text says that she had, quote, hard labor, and she passed away shortly after giving birth to a son. Jacob named her son Benjamin. And you may remember him from the story of Joseph, which we'll talk about in a couple chapters. Then in verses 22 through 26, we have a list of Jacob's children. Don't worry, this is not a long genealogy. You'll get one of those in chapter 36. But Jacob had sons with 4 wives, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah. And Jacob's sons' names were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And so then in our final section, verses 27 through 29, we read about the death of Isaac. The Bible tells us that Isaac lived to a good old age, and Jacob actually had the chance to visit his father after he returned from Haran. Isaac lived to be 180 years old, 5 years longer than his father Abraham, and he was buried by Jacob and Esau. So that is Genesis chapter 35. Now let's finish up with an application. God was with us before we found the people we would love the most, and he will be with us when we lose the people that we've loved the most. God was with Jacob, and he appeared to him in Bethel, giving them that vision, promising that he was going to be with him before Jacob went up to Haran and met the woman that he was going to love, Rachel. And God appeared to Jacob and reaffirmed his promises to him in the exact same spot he had 20 years earlier in Bethel. And he did that right before Rachel passed away. The people that we love aren't always going to be with us, but God always will. So it reminds me of the words that we sing in the pretty popular hymn, "What a friend we have in Jesus."